So you've learned a pattern that you really like, but you don't know where to take it from there. Let's explore how to take a cool idea and turn it into a composition. In this case, I'm going to use the example of a piece called Inner Piece that was one of the Handpan patterns. I'll leave a link to that down below so that you can learn it before moving on to learning how to compose with it. All of this advice works for using any pattern that I teach you here on YouTube and figuring out what to do with it next. In this case though, I'm working on an Amara. This is from Ayasa Instruments, but again, the concepts that I teach work for any scale, any pattern. So the pattern, the original pattern, goes like this. It's a nice little melody with a groove in between, and that's it. Then what? The first thing that I like to focus on is figuring out how to use this concept and pull as much out of it as possible before trying to think of new ideas, because this usually will then naturally lead to some kind of pathway, some kind of journey for this composition, right? So at the moment I know that I've got a melody, and this melody has quite a prominent rhythm to it. Da, 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 da. So I could just move that anywhere else and see what happens. Hear the original. Somewhere else. Moving up rather than down. I'm starting to change it in another way. So I'm sticking with that bat, ba, 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 and then I'm getting inspired to then bat, ba, 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 fill in that space a little bit differently. I'm returning to that main rhythm, but then I'm just adding a couple of notes here and there, nothing crazy, just here and there to expand on that idea a little bit more and bring a bit more movement to it. Same but different. Ooh, what did I do then? I found a rhythm that I liked from previous experimentation. I played that da-da-dum, 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 dum-dum, but the third time it came back to that original idea. So I'm repeating some motifs, but then returning to where it started originally, right? So very, very gently, if it's starting with a melody here, very, very gently, we can just start to introduce more notes or take notes away, whatever direction that looks like, just to see if we can find some different ideas there. If you learned this pattern, but on a scale that it isn't an Amara, then you might have already done this anyway, because you might have played what I played and didn't like the way it sounded on your instrument. So you might already be doing this without realizing that you're composing by doing that, right? So that's part one. The next thing that I immediately notice, and I'm doing all of this as I film, I haven't pre-planned any of this, I'm composing as we speak. But the next thing that I notice is missing is some kind of bass line or chords or some kind of harmony to bring it together. We've got a groove that happens in between the melodies, but there's nothing underneath supporting. So I'm gonna find a set of notes that I like the sound of. Either of those works. Any of these work. Let's go here, why not? And the next note is here already. There we go, I have something that worked. So I just chose a couple of notes, I experimented a little bit, and with the hand that wasn't busy, I played that chord, and then up here, I'm playing the melody. And then I decided to change chord and choose another chord to go with the next little bar. And then we're back to the groove. Again. A way that we could then develop this from just adding to the pattern and giving it some actual motion and some direction is to change the chords we play while then keeping the melody the same. Simple way to do that is just to swap them around. That's what I want to try. That didn't really work. Okay, so what about this then? Here's the original. This worked though. Ooh. So that's nice. That gives it a very different feel. The original. And then we change it up. Change the chords underneath. I like that. It's kind of cool. What if we kept it to just one note? How would that sound? I feel like this would give me a little bit more room to move. One thing that I'm not liking about this is that it's like, here's an idea, then a groove. Here's an idea, then a groove. So what I'm going to do now is try and keep that groove going while I play the melody to see how that feels. That feels like it holds together a bit better. If I can play it. And then this empty space, I want to fill that in. So now, actually, I'm going to put the chords there. Just to expand it a bit. So. Ooh, I like that. Now I've expanded. It kind of adds a bit of extra melody, but it's also harmonizing. So now I'm going to repeat that and then practice moving that melody around as well. So then again, give it a bit of direction this way rather than just filling in the sound this way. Explored before. It's starting to go somewhere now. So now that actually I've introduced this chordal idea, now I'm going to get rid of the melody itself. I've pulled as much from that as I can, and now that I've introduced this new idea underneath that melody, I'm going to feel how it feels to just play those chords on their own. So what if, now creative brain engages, I know I've got these chords, what if I just break them up a little bit so that it starts to create a bit more movement? So instead of playing like this, I'm going to play like this. Something interesting is happening. What if I move in the other direction? Now we've got something. I can just switch between those two ideas, right? inspired by the melody and adding some harmony underneath that, but then getting rid of the melody entirely and seeing what else I can do with that harmony, those chords, suddenly I've created a whole other section here. Hello, section B, right? So now I can play one thing after the other. Nearly missed it. Little run there. What? Can't play and speak at the same time. One more. Pattern, right? And to transition between those two things, the first time when I moved from pattern A to pattern B, I just went straight into it. And the second time, I left a little moment of silence within the beat. It still fit within the 4/4 count. Moment of silence, and then we're in, right? We don't need to always be making all of these little bridges and things to connect to the dots, if you like. You can just move straight into the next idea, and that will still work. So now I've got an A part and a B part. One thing that's really important to note though, is that to make that feel like it all fit together nicely, I kept that groove going underneath constantly. It changed a little bit, like my ghost notes altered a little bit, just because that's my process and, you know, I haven't solidified the groove that I'm playing, so I'm just kind of letting my hands do their thing. But this, within it, stayed the same. The ding was always in the same place and this tack was always in the same place. And that acted as a nice thread to keep it together, essentially. All right, so now we've got this idea. Ooh, I like that. That was an accident. Moving up and then moving down. That's way better than what I did before. What if I do that exact same thing somewhere else? Suddenly, I've expanded on that B section. And in that space, I can put some nice little bits. I've already got enough ideas really to start to build a composition. There's definitely a good 2.5 to 3 minutes worth of playing there, just swapping between those two ideas, especially if I start to really explore with that original melody and really move it around. Sirens, sorry. And really move that melody around. I can really long that out and play that for ages. Quietly. Fill in that space differently instead of just a groove. Move the melody. Change the rhythm a little bit. Direction. I moved up, then I moved down. Again. Now move up. And then we have A. Now move down. Right? And then groove all the way through. from section B. Repetition is always good. And then we move. We can repeat that. And fill in the space a little bit differently. Back to section A, right? And we can just back and forth that a bunch of times and it's gonna stay interesting. I also completely forgot to put the chords. That's another option, that's another variation of that section A. So we can do that in the beginning. Right, just leave the space. Using that gap. Instead of using rhythm, I'm doing something else, and then we're in, right? There's so many different things that you can do just by exploring what already exists within the idea and finding all of the different ways to utilize those and use them to inspire different ideas and more things. So yeah, this is a bit of a long one, but I thank you for sticking with me on this. I invite you to either take this pattern and move it in a different direction to me, or find another one from this year's Handpanuary patterns and see if you can create your own composition from it. There is so much joy in like that moment when it just clicks and you're like, oh, of course, the next thing to do should be this or whatever. That creative kind of ball just starts rolling once you practice that creative muscle, it just starts happening. So have fun with that, and yeah, I would love to see them. If you want to post a video of anything that you make, tag me on Instagram so I can see it. Otherwise, I'll see you in another tutorial somewhere soon. Have a wonderful week.